everybody, welcome to Bones Collector. Today on Bones Collector, we're continuing our series where Lori and I are playing our way through our board gaming library. The reason why we're doing this, of course, is to show you up close and personal the mechanics and what the game looks like physically on the table. In the top 10 videos and top 100 videos that we do, we only talk about each game in a few brief sentences, and it's very difficult for the viewer to understand what that game is about. So I'm hoping that by doing this, you will have a clearer picture actually on how the game plays and what it looks like and whether you would like it or not, because ultimately that's why you're watching, right? So we're going to play a couple of games, 2 or 3 games each week, and make a video about it and pass it on to you, and I hope you enjoy them. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Bones Collector, and today we just got done playing our copy of Era Medieval Age by Matt Laycock. Era came out in 2019. It's for 1 to 4 players, so there's a solo variant here. And you're rolling dice and covering this grid, and it's got a push your luck element in it. And it was a re-implementation of this game, Roll Through the Ages, which is the only roll and write game in our library. I just don't like roll and write games, never have. I didn't like Yahtzee. I don't, played it all the years and all the way through the 70s and 80s, and I never liked it. But Lori liked it, so we played it. I just don't like getting out a pencil to play a game unless I'm adding up my score. I guess that's pretty crazy, but anyways, yeah, this is a game that I'm going to make a comparison to Foundations of Rome, believe it or not, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Right now I just want to talk about the production of this game. The publishing company did a pretty nice job. This is a nice kind of linen box, and it's pretty sturdy, not the best, but it's sturdy enough. And then it has an insert here for all your little buildings, if you can see these on the table, that have to go in there. And then also it has a tray that goes on top of all that. This tray that holds your boards and your dice on top of that insert that holds the buildings. So that's pretty nice. The plastic buildings themselves are, they're chunky plastic, and the dice are very nice. And you have, as you saw, 4 different colors of dice, and these are really nice dice. They're engraved. I'm glad that the publisher went a little bit extra on the dice, and I thought that was necessary. These boards that you're going to use for your player boards are okay. They're okay. I'll talk about some more about production here in a second. But I guess in the beginning of this game, I don't know if it was a mistake or whether they meant it to go out like that, but this board was completely yellow, and it didn't have these black stickers you see on them to keep track of your resources and your skulls and your culture, and then your turn order here, the actions of your turn order, and a little bit of decal decoration there. But apparently these went out completely yellow when this game was first released, and I couldn't imagine that, because you wouldn't be able to see anything. They didn't have any of these black numbers on there and nothing. They had to send out stickers to people, and when you buy a copy now, I guess it has the stickers in the game, and you put the stickers on the board, and that's completely necessary. I couldn't imagine not having those stickers to help you read what was on this board. So let's talk a little bit about production. We just went to Dice Tower East and were able to play Foundations of Rome, and I really enjoyed Foundations of Rome, but I'll have to admit, it's a gateway level game, and it is super overproduction. The buildings in that thing are gorgeous, and I would be a liar if I didn't tell you that was fun playing that game because of those beautiful sculptured, those buildings. They're in that game. They're magnificent models, and when you're playing that game, people walking by your table are looking at it, because it's, let's face it, we're human beings and we're drawn to beauty, right? Everybody loves a dozen roses. Roses are beautiful. And a board game is like that too, I think. If you make a beautiful board game, people are going to not only look at it when they're walking by and checking out somebody playing it, but they're going to want to play it. And I think it does add to the fun of the game if the production is wonderful. But they could have done some things, I think, in this particular instance, made everything here twice as big. Have these minis that were painted. They're color, but I think painting them would have been outstanding. And if you go on Board Game Geek, some people have done that and they look outstanding. They've painted these little plastic minis in this game and they look beautiful. I don't know why the publisher themselves don't do that now, especially since Awakened Realms just bombed that Foundations of Rome game with beautiful production in the minis, and everything about that game is fantastic. And it's been very successful. They're even running another Kickstarter. If you're interested, was it August 2nd or August 2nd? There's going to be another Kickstarter for Foundations of Rome. And I'm going to tell you another thing about that game. I mean, I'm going to ramble a little bit about this because of the way I'm trying to compare these two games. Foundations of Rome, I looked at it, and you can pay an extra $50 to have it sun drop, they call it, and it's a wash that they put on the buildings. They're absolutely breathtaking. I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't seen Foundations of Rome with the sun drop on it, it's breathtaking. And then they were selling some copies there that weren't sun dropped, so they were the regular plastic buildings like these. And the guy selling, at the booth there at the convention, opened up a box and showed us what they looked like. And I'm going to tell you what, I mean, it's worth the $50. I would spend the extra $50 and have those things sun dropped the way it was in the game that we played, because the regular plastic buildings just didn't give you that same feeling of building Rome. I mean, those buildings when they're sun washed look like they're old and they've been out in the weather, and they look magnificent. So I mean, and I guess my point is that I think now publishing companies are stepping up their game. I'm talking about Thundergriff. They do a magnificent job. I mean, my Super Meeple with my new copy of Tikal is produced a little better than the original. And what's the other company I'm thinking of? Elf Creek Games. My copy of Honey Buzz and my copy of Merchants of the Dark Road, off the charts. I think finally Eurogame publishing companies are starting to get the message. Ameritrashers have had beautiful games for years. With the big minis and all these sculptures they have in their games. Hey, and they figured out, hey, these people are willing to pay a lot of money for a game that is produced properly. And I think they missed the boat a little bit in this, but I want to tell you another thing. This game is much better than Foundations of Rome. As far as game mechanics and complexity, the things you can do in this game are just much better. It's a deeper and more complex affair than Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome is simply a gateway game and just produced to the max. And it's wonderful. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I loved it. I loved playing it. It was more fun to handle those great big buildings and put them on the board. I mean, it was just wonderful. I think these guys missed the boat a little bit. I tell you what, if they'd have made everything in here twice as big, had it all painted, they'd have sold 2 or 3 times as many copies as they did probably originally with this production run. So yeah, that's that. And I want to touch a little bit about this game, this Roll and Write game, just to talk about production a little bit. And this is the only reason I kept this game, is the production of the game. I can't stand roll and writes. It's just something I'd never liked. But this game, you get these wooden pegs that go on these beautiful player boards. Look how thick those things are, dudes. If you haven't seen this game, this is Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age. Matt Laycock, same guy. And this is the player boards that you get four of these babies. And look at those dice, those wooden dice. Beautiful wooden dice. I mean, those are chunky. Those are size of dice in King of Tokyo or Dinosaur Island. You know, those kinds of chunky dice. And that's the reason why I kept this game, because it was a little more tactile when I'm playing it. And I like that. You know, it's just a little better production. Goes a long, long way. Now, this game is just like Era. In other words, this is a roll and write version, and this is a roll and build version. Same game. Same game. You know, here you're going to roll dice, and you're going to keep track of things on that player board as far as your resources are concerned, which would be this part of the game right here. You know, same thing. And then you cross off buildings that you build. You have a sheet of paper that tells you what the buildings cost, blah, 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 and a sheet of paper that has the buildings. You just cross them off as you build them. Well, that is just not as fun as actually touching these buildings. You know, you roll your dice, you know, get your food up, because these are your workers, these dice, and you got to feed these guys. Every round you have to have enough food to feed as many dice as you're using. and that's important in this game. And it's just like Roll Through the Ages. However, when you roll these things and you get a build on one of your dice, then you can build buildings with the resources that you've accumulated and put these in your player board. And the wonderful thing about it is that Roll Through the Ages, you just cross it off as you build it. Here, you're going to put them on a board, and it depends on how you put them on here as to how many points you're going to score at the end of the game. Everything in this walled area, and you can make these walls, city walls, this area as big as you want, as big as you dare. Let's put it that way, because you have to have these things walled in if you want to get double points for everything on your board. It's not everything on your board, everything in the city walls. Every building you put in the city walls, you're going to get double points for. So you're thinking about that. How big do I want to make this city? Can I get enough walls to close this in and get double points for the buildings that I'm putting inside the walls? So I mean, so that's deeper already than Roll Through the Ages. So this is a better game, and it's fun. These are scorched earth tiles. These are farms that will give you one food for each farm, and so that you can feed your people. So you're busy trying to juggle that. It's not as tight and not as difficult to feed your people as it is in Agricola, which is just tormenting. And it's not that. That's why I sold that game. I couldn't take feeding my people as you'd sweat in Agricola trying to find a way to feed your people. But here, you know, it's pretty easy. You roll the dice, and you, for the most part, you'll come up with enough food on the dice. Or, like I say, I got a food for each one of these farms. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 food every round, and I was using 6 dice, so I knew I was covered every round. Then I could just go after building buildings and so forth. But the game is a lot of fun. And over here is a tracker where you track your culture, and the person with the most culture gets 5 bonus points. And then on these dice also are skulls, and there's different punishments for different number of skulls that you roll. And the bad thing about it is whenever you roll a skull, that dice is dead to you. I mean, you roll a skull, you're done. You can't roll that die again. You got to put it aside, and whatever's on it, and usually the skull has something on with it. Yeah, I mean, almost in every case. So in this case, it's got a build and a wood on it, and the skull. So that dice is dead. It's got 3 things on it, but one of them is a skull, so it can't be rolled again. And then if you roll again, and I rolled 2 more skulls. Wow, that is crazy, because if you roll 3 skulls, that's treachery, and your opponent has to scorch an unwalled area. So they get a piece of scorched earth, which is these 2 gray things here, and they have to put it on their board. And so stuff like that, and I really, really like that in this game. And then also it has, what's this gray dice? Extortion. Yeah. This is called, I'm forgetting the words. This gray die is extortion. But you have swords and defense shields on there, and depending on how that die is rolled, it will affect the round also. So that's pretty cool. And then you get these player screens, and it has everything on there that you need to play this game. This is your disaster legend. This is the legend for walls and buildings, how much they cost, each building, how much they cost, and what is the effect of that die. Because you get certain things. Then over here is got a game end legend, and these structures, when you build them, have points you can score at the end of the game. So you gotta be aware of that also, because again, it just gives this game a deeper, more complex play than Roll Through the Ages. I've hung on to Roll Through the Ages for many years. I bought it for 15 bucks, and I'm going to sell it to somebody that will want to play it. Somebody that likes roll and rights, and I'm going to get rid of it, because this is, for me, is a much more rich experience than Roll Through the Ages. And it might scratch that Foundations of Rome itch. I don't know if I can paint these little color buildings, just wash them, do something with them to make them a little more attractive. I may try to do that, I don't know. But the game is wonderful. If you ever get a chance to play it, if you haven't played this game, you've been curious about it, it's wonderful. It's a lot of fun. You know, each round you're going to roll these dice, and then there's a black peg that goes on the player board, and you pass that back and forth, because that's the player that's going to be the first player for that round, and you just move down this, which is handy. You take this peg and it tells you everything to do in the round. So we roll our dice in the first hole, you move the peg to the second hole, that's collect your resources. The third hole is feed your people. The fourth hole is satisfy any skulls that you roll. The fifth hole is the build, and the sixth hole is the extortion step. Was there an extortion going on? So that really helps you on your player board here. These things could have been twice as big. Buildings could have been twice as big. Yes, the box would have been twice as big, but that's not bad. If you've seen Foundations of Rome, if this box was twice this big, it would still have 4 more boxes to go to match Foundations of Rome. So I think they missed the boat, and if they had done that, they would have beaten Foundations of Rome to the punch. Because this is a better game. I mean, it's just a more complex, more thinky game than Foundations of Rome. So I had to, it was just a natural for me because I just played Foundations of Rome, and when we were at the convention, I told Laura, you know what? I wonder if Era Medieval Age is very good. I saw people playing it there. We had never played it. We'd been curious about it, and we wanted to know how it played. So, lo and behold, we went to the flea market, and there was somebody selling a copy of this game for $60. I'm going to tell you how much I paid for it. $60. But it had the Rivers and Roads expansion in it. And again, I don't know how much that cost, but it had the Rivers and Roads expansion in it. And I offered him $45, and he said $50 and it's yours. So I bought it for $50 with the expansion. That's what I paid. I tell you guys what I pay for my games because we buy our games. Nobody sends me or gives me anything. This channel, if you're seeing me on YouTube. I don't network myself on Twitter or Twitch or Facebook or Instagram. I don't do any of that. If you're watching me on YouTube, that's the only way you're seeing me do any talk about board games. But yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's Era Medieval Age. It's a wonderful game if you haven't played it. It is a wonderful game to add to your library. If you're like me, you know, I'm thinking about getting Foundations of Rome, but it's running through my mind. I think eventually, I don't know what I'm going to decide. I'm so up in the air about that. Again, that game is just about having beautiful pieces in a game, and it is wonderful. It was fun to do just because of the nature of those great big buildings in the game. But this game is excellent. It's a better game mechanically than Foundations of Rome, and you get that same feeling of building a city. And when you get done, it looks pretty cool. This was Lori's board, and she went a different route than I did. She's only got 2 farms, but she managed to put one of them in the city walls here, so she got double points for it. And I ended up winning by 2 points, but I had 9 disasters points, so that subtracted off my total, which was better than when we played it last time. I had 12. So I don't know. I'm just terrible at absorbing disaster. She did better. She's only on 3, but I managed to pull it out by 2 points. And it's just one of the buildings I had gave me. Oh yeah, the Guild Hall. Guild Hall gave me a point for every resource I had left over, and that gave me 7 points. And that pulled my spatula out of the fire or whatever. But anyways, yeah, that's what your board kind of looks like. When you get done, you can do it different ways. Depends on how far you want to push your luck, because that's what you're doing in this game. Not only when you're rolling your dice are you pushing your luck, because you might have 1 skull already, and do you want another one? Because that's what happened to me. I had 1 skull, and I wanted to keep a couple of the dice that I had rolled, so I rolled 1 more die, and lo and behold, that 1 die rolled a skull, and I couldn't do nothing about it. Once you roll that skull, it's dead. So I had 2 skulls, which is the disease, and you get +1 skull for every adjacent building on your board. Well, there was 1, 2, 3. I forget how many farms I had at the time. I think I got all 3 of those were adjacent. All 3 of these longhouses were adjacent. I didn't have this hospital in there to cancel any of them, so I ended up getting quite a few disaster points against me because of that. As soon as I possibly could, I bought the hospital to try to cancel some of that. But those are the types of things you're dealing with in this game, and it's a lot of fun, folks. And that's it. I'm going to stop talking. That's Era Medieval Age by Matt Laycock. The winning condition is the most points, and as usual, they give you a score pad, and we always laminate 1 sheet, and just so we don't waste, and we use a dry erase and keep our scores. All of our games are like this. We laminate the scoring sheet so that we don't waste a bunch of paper, and just use a dry erase marker, and when we go to play it again, just erase everything off there when you put it away, and you're good to go. So that's it. Era, I hope you guys, if you haven't played it, give it a shot. You can play this game with confidence, or pick this game up with confidence, and know that it's an excellent and fun board game. See you next time. Hey everybody, we're continuing to play through our library, and the game that we just finished playing is Honey Buzz. Honey Buzz is a game that was designed by Paul Solomon. It came out in 2020. It's a 1 to 4 player game, so there's a solo variant in there. And it's contract fulfillment, open drafting, grid movement, and the winning condition, of course, is the most points, most money.
Money.
It's the most money. Yeah, the bees have discovered economics, and they want to get money for their honey. And that sounds awesome.
Yes, it does.
And they're doing so in this game. This is the Honey Buzz Deluxe version. That was some kind of Kickstarter deal. We were able to get this game off of the VFM at Dice Tower Con East, and I'm glad we did. I mean, we played it. This is our third time, and we played it. There's a couple of different ways you can play this game. Well, first of all, let's talk about how the game works. You have 6 actions you're going to be able to take, represented by these hive tiles. So you're building a hive in front of you, and it takes a little bit of space, yeah, on the table. But each one of these hive pieces has an icon on one's end, and so there's 6 of them, 6 different actions. Depending on where you place your worker bees, that's the tile you're going to take and place in your hive. And just like in Witchstone, in the Cauldron, where you're trying to daisy chain like shapes together, you're trying to do the same thing here. You want to, once you enclose part of your hive, you're going to take the actions of all the tiles that are around that enclosure. So you can see on this board, wherever you see an empty spot, where I can put these nectar tiles, by the way, you're going to activate everything around there. And it depends on how you build this thing, because it takes a little thought, doesn't it? I mean,
Oh yeah.
man, I mean, you want to get some of these nectar tiles, and they have a certain pattern that you have to fulfill in order to make them eligible to be put in these spaces. And I tell you, and there's certain goal cards that are going to affect the way you want to build that hive, and there's just a lot happening. It's not a gateway game, but it is probably a gateway plus game on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 2 different ways you can play this game, and we played it the first 2 times.
You gonna just dump it?
Yeah.
Just dumps those
Yeah.
off.
Okay, let me see this.
Okay.
We played it the first 2 times on this side of the board, and when you're putting the nectar tiles out, they're face up, and then you use a token to travel around there.
Either a little fuzzy bee or a token.
Yeah.
You have your choice.
Yeah, so you're traveling around there and making a selection of these nectar tiles, and they're face up, so you know which ones you want. You're building the designs in the hive to accommodate those nectar tiles from the board. Now, because they're face up, your bee will hop along here, and you can move 1 space unless you want to pay some money. You can pay $2 to move additional spaces. So every additional space is $2.
Yeah.
So if you have one particular nectar tile you're after, you can get it if you're willing to pay for it. But again, most money wins the game, so you don't want to spend it unless you absolutely have to. But that's the way this side of the board works. And then when you flip it over to this side, all the tiles are face down, and that changes this game.
That, like that. And they're upside down. You can't tell what's on. Yeah. You don't know what shape is under there.
Yeah. We played the first 2 games on the side with the nectar tiles face up, and it was fun, and we said, hey, we're going to keep it. This is a good game. We had a good time, and there was enough going on that we were very pleased with it. You have end game goals, in-game goal cards. You have your nectar tiles that you have to try to build into your hive. Yeah, the first 2 games we played were very good, but once we flipped the board over and laid those nectar tiles face down, that changed the game to just a new level. And I will always play it that way. I like it the other way, but man, it was more stressful.
Yes.
And I like some stress.
You have to use your memory, and
It's a memory element, because you can only look at one of those tiles every time you pull your bees back, right?
That's when you're allowed to peek.
Yeah.
Yes, but
You're
when
allowed
you
to
forage,
peek at
you're
them.
looking at one,
Yeah.
and if you don't take it, you take pollen.
So you don't know what's there. And there are a couple ways you can peek at them. When you pull your bees back, you get to take a peek. And then when you forage, you get to take one. And you're just taking a chance as to whether you can put that in your hive. And if you can't, it can go on this expansion tile. I don't know if that's in the retail version or...
Probably
No?
not, because that's an expansion.
Okay, but if
We
you...
have honey jars, we put them.
If you turn
nectar
that
jars.
tile up and you can't accommodate it in your hive, you'll just have to put it back.
And you take a nectar.
Yeah. Or a pollen.
Or pollen, sorry.
Yeah,
you
one of
take
these
a pollen.
pollens. You take a pollen to kind of take the sting out of it. Take the sting out of that. But it is such a much better game. I don't really like memory elements in games. But when I have seen them, as long as it doesn't dominate the game, it's no big deal. And this is just enough. It's just, there's a lot of other things going on, but it's just enough to make it happen and ratchet it up a little
Well,
bit.
we're on equal footing memory-wise, so I don't worry
Yeah.
about you remembering everything and I forget them all, because neither one of us can remember anything. So.
Yeah, man, I mean, I can't believe how different the game is
Yeah.
by placing those tiles face down. It really ratchets it up and adds stress to the game that was a little bit missing on the other side.
And it does come with a pad of paper.
Yeah,
It comes with a pad of paper that you can take notes of what is where.
and the retail
We
player
chose.
does too.
I don't know. I don't know if that's part of the game, retail game or not. So
Yeah.
you could take notes of what, when you turn something over, you could take notes of what you found there. But we didn't use that. We didn't play that way. We just
Yeah, I don't wanna do
depended
that.
on our memory.
Yeah, I like the stress of it. I like the stress of trying to remember what's there. You know, once you take a peek at it and you put it back, you have to not only tell yourself, okay, I know where that one is, but now I need to build it in my hive. Or maybe I've already got it built. That would be awesome. But I have to build it in my hive if I don't, because that's the only one I know. That's the only one I know. I've just looked at it, and the rest of them are face down. You don't know what's there, and it gives you in the rule book the ones you're supposed to remove in order to make the game interesting.
Yes, it tells you which ones to take out.
And it's really, I don't know, it's just so much better. I could not believe it. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about, before we go too far, the game itself. A nice sturdy box in this game.
And it's a smallish size.
Yeah, this is probably the size of Azul, I would think.
Probably, yes.
You know, Azul, we have Azul Summer Pavilion. I think it's a smallish style box. So if you have Azul at home, this is the size of box that Honeybuzz is going to come in.
Yeah.
And the board is very nice. The art's very good. You have these Queen's contest cards that are a whole bunch of them.
That's what these are.
Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
a whole
there's
stack
quite a
of
few.
them.
You pick one purple, one red, and one gold, I guess, for each game. But there's a lot of them. Oops.
And you pick 3 of those for each game, and it will change the way you have to play the game. And Lori got all 3 of them, by the way, in the last game, so she got like $60. You get $20 for each one of those you win. There's no second place
In a
two-player
two-player game, yeah.
There's no second place. If you're playing 3 or 4 player, there are second and third awards for completing those
The
tasks.
last player never gets anything, however many are in the game.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, I mean, that changes the game. Again, this changes the game. What was those other cards? What's
These,
that orange?
the small
Small and large orders.
The small and large orders, I mean, you only use, what, 9 of these per game, and there's a ton of these order cards. Oh, these are the
Then you have a deck of
initial
cards.
setup. These came with the expansion, those
Oh.
did, but these came in the game.
Okay, so you'll have a deck of cards that give you diagrams on how one player will set up his hive like that, and then the other player has to set the hive up exactly like that to start the game.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. The icons have to
Yeah.
match, and the design has to match also. But it's nice to have a variety so that you're starting a little bit differently every time, because everybody likes that. You don't want to start every game the same because it just makes it more interesting if you're not doing that. But the box has a wonderful insert in it. This is the deluxe version. The money tokens, they're bear paws and they're wood.
There's the insert.
Yeah,
They're bear paws and acorns and leaves.
leaves, acorns. What's this big blue thing?
I don't know what that is. I was trying to figure that out. It must be just another kind of leaf, maybe.
Huh.
I don't know.
Could be. The bees are wooden. I mean, again, this is the one we ended up with. I didn't see any others for sale, so it was the deluxe edition, and we bought that one, and I'm glad we did. So
First player marker.
yeah, first player markers, a honey dipper, and a pot of honey, and
Pot of honey came in the expansion, and then we have some harder cards.
all the linens, or all the card stock is linen. Even the box is linen. The rule book is linen. I thought that was pretty sweet. And
When you have really nice
player aids.
player aids, and it shows you which kind of pollen goes in each configuration of tiles, and the player aid describes all 6 of the 6 actions.
Yes. Yep, and it tells you, it describes your 6 actions and tells you how to make your nectar designs for these nectar tiles, which are nice acrylic tiles, and they have pretty art on the other side when you're
on
playing
the
with them
back
face
side,
down.
yeah.
Which again, guys, if you get Honeybuzz, this is the way to play the game. It needed that. It really did. We played it, like I say, on the other side where these are face up, and You can plan where you're going, and it's like in that regard, it's like so many other Euro games where you're planning and making a strategy of the most efficient way to score points or get money. And this way, it throws a little randomness in there, man. And I mean, you're like,
Well, it just gives you something else to worry about.
yeah, you're worrying about it, like where, I'm getting all these actions by building my hive, and I'm creating all these cells, but I need to know which tiles, nectar tiles, I can stick in there, and I'm going to have to go on a search for them and try and remember by peeking once in a while what's where. And that really ratchets the game up, really makes it more fun for me. It was just a more fun experience to enjoy that kind of pressure where you're trying to figure out or trying to remember what's happening or what's in that network of nectar tiles on the
Yeah.
board.
The other side, I think, would be good if you're playing with family or
Yeah. So that, and that
inexperienced
is a good
players
thing.
or younger players. The other side would be fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's what these icons are. That's telling you which one there's two of in each section.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's true. We'll have to look at that.
When we were trying to figure out how to tell, I bet that's what those are.
So yeah, I mean that is a nice thing. Again, if you want to have a little bit of easier game, and I wouldn't describe it like that. I would just say it's a little bit of different game.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
It's still not easy by any means.
No.
But it's a little more.
Well, it gives you one less thing to have to concentrate on.
Yeah, it's less randomness. This adds a little bit of randomness, which you've heard me say before. I like some randomness in my board games because it just makes for a more fun experience. And if there were no randomness in any board game, the smartest person wins every time, and you can't have that. So,
There's a little hive board where all the tiles go that you choose from.
but that was, and you get this little. Each person gets
Each
this
person
little
has their own little beehive.
beehive thing that you're going to put all your worker bees on, and your fan that you're going to use
So
to
we have a fan to produce. It produces honey.
produces honey.
It takes the pollen or the nectar
Nectar.
and turns it into honey.
Turns into honey, and you got all these like gel-like honey tokens, and this is the pollen that comes with it. And again, you get a tray for the money, and a pretty impressive production by Elf Creek Games, who did.
It's got really nice dice if you play solo.
Oh yeah, yeah, these huge chunky dice. Look at those things. Those are
Like Dinosaur Island.
Dinosaur Island or King of Tokyo.
King of
that
Tokyo,
size?
yeah.
Are they that big? King of Tokyo?
I
They might be.
think so.
But yeah, big chunky dice if you're playing solo. But anyways, Elf Creek Games also did Merchants of the Dark Road, and the production of that was incredible. The Kickstarter deluxe version of that thing with the metal coins and the purses. I'd go on all day. That's still the front runner for the game of the year so far for me. But yeah, that's Honey Buzz. We had a great time playing it, especially this third time when we
Turned it
flipped the
over.
board over. I didn't even know that was over there. And we turned it over, and yeah, it's face down nectar tiles makes all the difference in the world in the way this game plays. It doesn't make it harder, it just makes it more stressful.
Yes. It does.
I
Puts
guess
more
it-
pressure on you.
That's the way to describe it.
Would this have made your top 10 of 2020?
I don't know, I'd have to look at the list. It's a very good game. It's a very good game. Very enjoyable. I had fun playing it, and I will
And
have
it's
fun
pretty.
playing it. Yeah, it's funny. It's a great theme.
These tiles are nice.
Yeah, everything about it's top notch as far as production. Elf Creek Games again did a nice job, and I mean, Euro games in general are stepping up their production of their board games. Finally, after all these, Ameritrash games have been for years had off the wall production, off the charts production, I guess, and had all these big minis and everything in the game, and the component quality was amazing. And finally, Euro games are stepping up, as you well know if you've looked at Foundations of Rome. That's clear at the top of the ladder right now, and I'm sure other board game publishers have something to shoot for now. But hey, that's Honey Buzz. We love playing it. I hope you guys get a chance to play it. Go to a convention or something and play it and see if you like it. But remember, do that side with the nectar tiles face down if you get a chance to. I mean, both ways are good. It's just you gotta ask yourself if you want more stress in your game or not. But yeah, if you
If you
get
like more stress in your life, play it this way.
yeah, if you want to get to a convention to check it out, do it. Try to play it before you buy it. But you can buy this game with confidence, knowing that it's very good, and you will have a great time doing it. That's Honey Buzz by Elf Creek Games, designed by Paul Solomon. We'll see you next time on The Bones Collector. Okay, everybody, that was a couple of games out of our library that we wanted to share with you. We're doing this video series to show you in depth, a little more in depth about the games that we have in our library and what it's like to play them, so that you can take a look at them physically, what they look like on the table. And also I wanted to tell you that these videos probably don't come out as often or as frequent as I would like them to, because we're very busy. We have lives that we continue on with, and with grandchildren and so forth, and children that we have, and so we're very busy in that regard, like you guys are. And I don't ask for money. I don't get paid for this at all. Lori and I just do this because we want to share our passion. The only payday that I get is when you comment on the videos, or when you tell me. I think one of my viewers, Christoph, told me, hey, I bought a copy of Aqualin because you recommended it, and I played it with my kids and we loved the game. You were correct, it's a very good game. That's my payday. That's the type of things I really like that make me feel good. It goes way beyond a monetary reward, and thank you for those comments, and please keep them coming. We'll try to get back to you as often as we possibly can. I love every one of you guys, and always remember to keep on board gaming. It's the best hobby on the planet. Bye-bye.